Welcome to the next episode of videos Canadians should have uploaded but never did. This comes from a time over a year ago when Vixios and other members of the Minecraft Manhunt community asked me to help them on a project to debunk the legitimacy of another Manhunt YouTuber named Hissy. They wanted me to just create one segment to be a part of their full debunk video, but after I finished my segment and uploaded it unlisted to YouTube, the link was leaked somehow. Hissy found out about it, desperately tried to defend himself in the comments before ultimately deleting them when he realized he was an idiot, and then one of his friends threatened and gaslit one of the members into canceling the project entirely. Ever since then, they've pretty much gotten away with it, so hopefully now that all the drama's over, I can release the 20-minute debunk I made to the rest of the world without getting the mob to come after me. Roll film. So, Hissy, the latest star in the Minecraft Manhunt community. I'll admit, when I first watched his videos, they seemed pretty legit. Everything seemed to line up, and the vast majority of people seemed to share the same experience. But after taking a deeper approach to this analysis, my perception of Hissy has completely turned around. Not only is he a massive fraud who's faked his recordings countless times per video, but he's really good at hiding it. To prove my point, I'm going to give you my analysis of just 2 of his Manhunt videos. Using this first video, I'll demonstrate how Hissy has been able to hide his tracks so well, and using that information, I'll use the second video to give several examples of 100% irrefutable proof that Hissy is a fraud. It's gonna get really spicy at the end, but first let's start with the context. In this episode of Minecraft Manhunt, Hissy spawns in a beautiful 1.18 valley with 2 villages, one on each end. He then spends a grand total of 30 minutes in the spawn region, just going back and forth up and down hills. I can tell because in this scene it's night, in the next scene it's day again, and in the scene after that it's night again. He then has a few very legitimate encounters with the hunters where he implements strategies such as hitting a pig, which causes the hunters to think the pig is him. A very high IQ move that only the experts can pull off. At another point in this 30-minute period, he finds himself on top of a mountain being chased. His only escape is to jump down. Fortunately, there's some water down below him. Oh, no, it's all completely gone, so he can jump into the powdered snow for some reason. And in one more relevant scene, we see him running away from a player inside a cave, and in the next cut, he's suddenly outside the cave. Now, I bring these all up not because they're evidence, but because they seem weird. Every one of these points just doesn't seem natural, and ironically, I think that's one of the ways that Hissy keeps his image safe. Take this scene where he's running inside a cave, for example. The scene where he suddenly finds himself on the surface. I've seen a few people try to call him out for this scene, but I looked at the actual seed itself, and this cave is genuine. There's an exit that's not too far ahead. But this isn't the only example of false evidence. In another clip a little while later, we see Hissy swimming deep at the bottom of the ocean, and suddenly the scene cuts to him deep inside a bamboo jungle. Some people in our group thought this was suspicious too, but using chunk base, I can tell that there's actually 3 different jungles in a nearby area, so it's very likely that this is genuine. Even the mesa he goes to a little while later is not too far from the jungle. Most often, the most obviously suspicious moments are something that Hissy can write off with reasonable excuses, while the actual evidence of cheating is hidden much deeper down. For example, in this scene in the mesa, he's at half a heart with no food, running through a mine shaft. Immediately in the next cut, his hunger is exactly the same, but he has gained half a heart. It also doesn't help that in this entire video, Hissy never presses F3 once, so it's almost impossible to track him down even using the seed. I wasn't able to locate him until he went to this pillager outpost, which I was able to locate through chunk base. There's also another goofy moment here where he spontaneously gains 3 hunger, despite not having any food. Okay, sure, so maybe he gave himself slight health boosts here and there, and he doesn't usually put on F3. That doesn't make him guilty of all that much, does it? Now remember, I haven't shown what Hissy is specifically guilty of yet. And while I'm not going to get to the truly incriminating evidence yet, this video still has a lot of suspicious moments worth showing. In the Nether, Hissy comes across a bastion next to a fortress, a pair of structures I was able to find pretty quickly using chunk base. For the next several minutes of the video, we see Hissy running around the fortress, occasionally leaving and coming back for more blaze rods, as the hunters are constantly chasing him down. And at the very end of this great battle, he finally leaves riding on the back of a strider. At least, that's what it looks like to the average viewer. Here's the issue. I was able to locate this fortress using chunk base. I can link it up to this one right here and verify it by seeing it in game. But the blaze spawner shown in a following scene doesn't match up with anything in this fortress. That's because he actually goes to a second fortress, and I can verify that by going to the coordinates of the second fortress and matching up everything in this scene with what you see here. But then we see this blaze spawner right here over a massive pit of lava, And that links up with a third fortress, this one right here. And once again, I can confirm because I can see this exact same layout, block for block, at these coordinates. Now you might think that's crazy. How often do you see 3 fortresses in one recording? But then he goes to a 4th fortress. There's a blaze spawner right here in the video which perfectly links up with the one I'm seeing here at these coordinates, which line up with this 4th fortress. And I can verify it because the place where he leaves riding on a strider is exactly the same as this place right here. Now I'm no speedrunner expert, but 4 fortresses in one video without anyone pointing it out. So how many blaze rods did he get after visiting 4 different fortresses without anyone mentioning it? 14. Which is actually a lot as far as I can tell, because I was pretty sure you only need 7 or 8. So he's definitely completely set. Then exactly 7 seconds of video later, he opens his inventory in the next cut, and he has 26. So either he cheated in 12, which, no, he wouldn't cheat in items, or he found a 5th fortress, and the hunters just gave up on tracking him. Now I'm gonna go with the theory that he cheated in items, and it'll become pretty obvious why later. After a moment of traveling, he decides to randomly dig down in a random basalt delta, and oh my gosh, it's a ruined portal. How did he find that? Now, ignoring the fact that he dug in a random direction and found a ruin portal, what's weird to me is that he left the fortress going east. So I checked all the ruin portals in basalt deltas in the general east direction, and I couldn't find a single one that matched with the one he found. So I went on to check every single ruined portal in a 4,000 block area that was inside a basalt delta, and none of them matched with the one he found. I'm pretty sure it's a legitimate portal because it matches up with an existing model, but I couldn't find one no matter how far out I searched, which means he must have traveled a really long distance, or he teleported. So unfortunately I wasn't able to track him. Ultimately, he leaves the nether with 26 blaze rods and 3 ender pearls. Wait, 3 ender pearls? That's not enough for a portal, is it? Oh no, don't worry guys, it's fine, because in the next scene he has 7. Now sure, maybe he killed 4 to 8 endermen in that time and didn't show any of them on screen, but then he digs straight down in a savanna biome and finds the stronghold out of nowhere. So once again I went searching through strongholds and I couldn't find a single one that was under a savanna biome. So he must have traveled really far away to cover up his tracks. Then he finds 2 pearls inside this stronghold chest, and then, a couple moments later, he's up to 12. Now again, he could have just killed a ton of endermen and didn't show any of them in his video. But that doesn't really explain why he confidently left the nether after traveling for a really long time and thought 3 pearls was enough. Did he know he was going to find enough endermen to make up for it? Sadly, it's just not quite enough to be definitive proof of cheating, but it is really suspicious. Fortunately, I don't need this video to prove that Hissy is a fraud. This was just a demonstration of the kinds of things he does to hide his tracks. The real evidence is in the second video, so brace yourselves, cause it's about to get intense. Once again, Hissy was kind enough to provide the seed in the description. Surely the sign of an honest man, right? Well, if you load the seed in 1.18, you'll find that everything has changed. Nothing matches what is seen inside the video, none of the structures are in the same places, this is the wrong seed. And the reason for that is because he's actually in 1.17. I thought it was 1.18 because he has caves and cliffs generation underground. But as my manhunt friends explained to me, he's actually using a data pack, which you can find on Planet Minecraft. It only has about 42,000 downloads, and this allows you to get caves and cliffs generation in 1.17. So in reality, showing the seed in the description wasn't a sign of transparency, since this exact seed he uses is only accessible by 42,000 people. What's more, I loaded the seed using the data pack, and the spawn region still doesn't match his spawn location at all. That's because he doesn't start the manhunt anywhere near spawn, and it should be practically impossible to find the place where the manhunt takes place. Hissy's done a very good job at hiding his tracks here. Unfortunately for him, his determination to hide all the evidence he's a liar does not outweigh my determination to find that evidence. Using the location where the portal generated in the nether, I was able to find the exact location where he built his portal in the overworld, and using key points in the terrain, I was able to work my way back all the way through this fight scene to find out the exact coordinates where the manhunt began. And Hissy, I can see the sweat on your face from here. You didn't think anyone would get this far, did you? You hid this seed behind so many layers of protection. Oh wait, how can I say everything's exactly the same block for block? In my seed, these cactuses are barely grown, but in his, they're fully grown. They must have spent a lot of time at this spawn region before the recording started. I wonder what they did in all that time. Well, before I start going through the evidence, I need to go through one technical point just so you understand. I'm technically using a slightly different version of the mod that Hissy was using, so the underground biomes are not going to match with the biomes that he sees. But the terrain of the caves is still exactly the same. I'll show just a few scenes of this block for block. The only difference is the types of blocks the caves are made out of, and the decoration plant blocks, which generate separate to the natural caves. Other than that, the shapes of the caves should be exactly the same. If you don't know where I'm going with this, they're not. So Hissy starts his manhunt doing what any normal speedrunner would do, and goes straight for a cave. So after a while of sprinting in random directions, Hissy finds himself in this massive epic looking cave with lava at the bottom. So you might be wondering, what's the probability going in random directions that Hissy would have found this cave? Well, after searching 25 different caves, I can tell you that the probability that he doesn't hit a dead end is 0. All the caves are dead ends. You see, at this point in the recording, just after he attacks the skeleton, he runs into this cave, which is impossible to get through because there's a 2-block high cliff. I'll play it very slowly a few times so you can tell. Oh, and sorry, but not only is this cave completely impossible to get through, but it doesn't even exist. This is the cave he went down. It goes in this direction, and as you can see, everything is the same block for block until we get to this cave, where suddenly, he has a cave there and I don't. If you don't know, that's not how seed generation works at all. But that's just the beginning. In the next scene, he takes this random sharp left turn towards this cave over here, and then climbs up this sort of cliff, which should be impossible because there aren't actually any blocks that allow you to get up here. Here's what the seed is supposed to look like, and here's what he has. Shortly after, he runs to the edge of the cave and then jumps onto this block right here, which frankly doesn't exist, nor does Minecraft even generate blocks that way at all. Ultimately, he stands at the edge of this block and takes a leap of faith into the lava, but then just barely lands on a bit of water that he magically knew was there. This is also impossible because the gap in the ledge that Hissy uses to just barely get to the water is not as deep in the actual seed. Here's me attempting the jump, and while you can just barely make it, there's no chance you're getting anywhere near the water. Now, this is pretty obvious evidence of cheating, but it's not even the most incriminating part. Then, after traveling 200 blocks underground, Hissy manages to find his way to this mine shaft where he can finally get wood. After a short amount of time, he's confronted by one of the hunters, who, after chasing Hissy away, decides, nah, I'm just gonna sit here. After this, Hissy enters this great fight scene, which lasts for more than 8 minutes of the video. Because, you know, PvP is the only thing that Hissy's good at. Now, I'm not an expert on analyzing PvP, so I can't tell you if these hunters are just bad or if they're faking. But in the end, Hissy wins the fight and then moves on to the nether. He gets 5 out of 6 in blaze rod drops and then goes on to mine golds to get ender pearls. Or at least that's the theory, because I never see him mine gold, nor does he seem to lose a lot of durability on his pickaxe. But you know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he did actually mine for gold. Also, let's take the time to appreciate this scene right here.
Oh my god! I just got pearls twice in a row! Oh my god! I'm using Dreams plugin.
Ah yes, that sounds exactly like what a trustworthy person would say. So he gets to the overworld, and after a pretty uninteresting fighting scene, he gets to this place where he mines down and finds the stronghold. At least this time I know what stronghold he's at, because the place he mines in lines up exactly with this, as well as the loot in this chest he opens. All of a sudden, Hissy has a single piece of redstone in his inventory. If you don't know, mining redstone ore gives you between 4 and 5 redstone dust per block. So how he managed to get 1 is beyond me. I mean, maybe he killed a witch, but let's be real, he probably just forgot to mine redstone. Oh, and because he's so epic, he manages to light this one-eye portal with just 10 ender eyes, a move only professional speedrunners can pull off. But what does he need redstone for, you ask? Well, there's this glitch you can do with portals in which you push yourself with a piston and preserve your overworld coordinates when you teleport to the end. Unfortunately, this glitch was patched in PaperMC several months ago. Now, despite being on a PaperMC server, Hissy manages to pull off this glitch, but later admits in a second channel video that he faked it. I mean, thanks for admitting. But he has his reasons, I'll let him explain.
I've tested this glitch on many different types of servers. Spigot, Paper, and Vanilla. And all 3 of those, it worked. And my server is a Paper server. But, when we went to do it, it actually TP'd me to the Obsidian platform at the main end island in the end. and it was obviously a bug or something. My server is also really cursed. Like, sometimes now in the server, my friends use Optifine, but they didn't buy any Optifine capes. But some of the hunters just have capes anyway. Like, and it's only in the server and nowhere else. So that also further proves that it's a bug. So, to make it fair, and that was just really unfair if we didn't do anything about it. So, what I did, alright, I'm gonna be completely honest. This is not cheating or anything. I teleported myself to those coordinates in the end. Now you may be thinking, oh, what? Has he just exposed himself? He just admitted that he's faking? No, it's to justify it and make it more fair. Because on a regular server, on an actual server that's not mine, if it was like the exact same type of server, same everything, it would have worked. But for some reason, my server just decided to bug out and just didn't work, even though I tested it on paper.
Also, in a reply to a comment, Hissy said the glitch worked the day before, implying that Paper patched it just the day before they did the recording, which I know for a fact isn't true. But when Paper MC patched this doesn't even matter, because it's faked either way. The coordinates that Hissy teleports to are more than 50 blocks away from the actual coordinates you should teleport to. I know because I tested it myself and I can see the same islands he saw, but I'm down at y-1. On top of that, there's physically no way for me to pearl from anywhere around me to get to an end island before I suffocate in the void. This is just another example of Hissy getting away with lying. He's admitting to cheating once with a semi-valid excuse to get away with cheating a completely different time. Even if Paper didn't patch this, there would be no way he'd survive. Oh, but Hissy's ability to cover up his tracks don't even stop there. In the next scene, we see Hissy crafting firework rockets using gunpowder and sugarcane. The last time we get a clear view of his inventory is while he's in the stronghold room running from the hunters. He has no gunpowder or sugarcane, and he also doesn't kill any of the hunters, so he had no chance of getting any. He then spectacularly manages to travel to the only nearby end city, right over here. After a little bit of raiding, he gets into the ship and grabs Elytra. But hang on. I have the exact same copy of the end city, but there's no ship here. And then Hissy makes the biggest mistake he's ever made. You see, in all of his videos, everything I've ever analyzed, he never presses F3 once, because he knows what it will reveal. Until now, this is the first time I ever see him press F3, and it reveals so much. The coordinates of the end city ship he is inside is over 6,000 blocks circumferentially away from the end city he entered. My guy managed to travel 6,000 blocks in the end without damaging his pickaxe, without crafting any more pickaxes, and without using any of his blocks. Now there's only one method I know of in the game that lets you do that. Oh, and if you still don't believe he teleported, after all this evidence, listen to this actual clip from one of the hunters.
The compass is pointing that direction. Wait, no. He's literally just teleporting between islands though.
We have a confession! In video! Hissy, you are standing on a hill of lies right now. And unless you concede to all the evidence against you, you are going to die on that hill in vain. And it is honestly impressive and disturbing how well you are able to hide the truth. What's worse, this is the only time he presses F3 and we can prove that he teleported somewhere. Think about all the other times I lost Hissy, when he seemingly traveled thousands of blocks, in the nether, in the overworld, in the jungle. I'm sure I've just barely scratched the surface of how sickening and fabricated this Manhunt series is. But I hope in the light of the rest of this video, someday we'll learn the whole truth. Thank you.